The sun beats down on the baked earth of Pakistan. Here in the Indus Valley lie the silent remains of a once great city, Mohenjo-Daro. The name means mound of the dead. For thousands of years, its secrets lay buried beneath layers of sand and time. Its grid-like streets, its advanced plumbing, and its enormous granaries speak of a civilization far ahead of its time, a society organized, prosperous, and intelligent. But something happened here, something sudden, something terrible. The city was not slowly abandoned, it was extinguished. The silence here is profound, a heavy blanket over the bricks and pathways that once bustled with life. As you walk through these deserted avenues, a sense of unease settles in. The ruins are remarkably well preserved in some ways, yet utterly destroyed in others. Skeletons have been found here, not in neat graves, but scattered in the streets. They lie where they fell, caught in their final moments. One family was found huddled together, their arms intertwined as if shielding each other from a sudden unseen terror. These are not the remains of a city that succumbed to flood or famine. They are the silent witnesses to a catastrophe that arrived without warning, freezing life in an instant and leaving behind a haunting tableau of human despair. What could cause such an abrupt end? Archaeologists have puzzled over this for decades. There are no signs of a massive invasion, no layers of ash from a volcanic eruption. The bodies show no marks of conventional weapons. Instead, they seem to have been struck down by an immense force that left the city's foundations intact but wiped out its inhabitants. The people of Mohenjo-Daro were simply erased from history. We see their homes, their public baths, their places of work. We see their final desperate moments captured in bone. But the cause of their demise remains one of archaeology's most enduring and chilling mysteries. The official story often points to climate change or a shift in the course of the Indus River. These are slow, gradual processes. The scene at Mohenjo-Daro, however, does not speak of gradual decline. It screams of a single horrifying event. The evidence on the ground tells a story of instantaneous death. It is a story that defies simple explanation and forces us to look beyond conventional historical narratives. It pushes us to consider possibilities that are as fantastic as they are terrifying. The dust of this ancient city whispers a warning, a tale of power and destruction that we have perhaps heard before in our own time. The mystery deepens when we examine the very stones of these ancient sites. In several locations around the world, from Scotland to India, we find something extraordinary. We find vitrified forts. Vitrification is the process where rock melts and fuses into a black, glassy substance. This requires immense heat, far greater than what a simple fire or even a blacksmith's forge can produce. To turn solid stone into molten glass, you need temperatures exceeding 1,100 degrees Celsius. How did ancient people generate such incredible heat? And why would they apply it to their own fortresses and cities, turning them into crystalline tombs? At Mohenjo-Daro, archaeologists have discovered lumps of clay and pottery that have been fused together into this same glassy material. These vitrified fragments are scattered throughout the epicenter of the city's destruction. Scientists call these strange objects black stones. They are remnants of everyday items, transformed by a force of unimaginable intensity. It is as if a wave of heat, powerful beyond comprehension, washed over the city. It melted brick, pottery, and stone in its path, leaving behind these glassy scars as a permanent record of the inferno that once raged here. This is not the work of a simple fire, it is evidence of a cataclysm. Other sites around the globe show similar signs. In the deserts of Libya and Egypt, vast stretches of sand have been turned into sheets of greenish-yellow glass. This desert glass has been known for centuries, even used by ancient Egyptians to craft jewelry for pharaohs like Tutankhamun. For a long time, scientists believed it was caused by a meteorite impact, but analysis of the glass shows it was formed by an aerial burst, an explosion that took place in the atmosphere above the sand. The heat required for such a transformation is comparable to that of a nuclear detonation, which also creates glass from sand at ground zero. Could these vitrified ruins and fused sands be the physical proof of an ancient high-tech war? The evidence is tantalizing. Conventional explanations struggle to account for the sheer scale and intensity of the heat required. A bonfire cannot melt a stone fortress. A lightning strike cannot turn acres of desert sand into glass. The patterns of vitrification suggest a source of heat that was not only intense but also widespread and instantaneous. It is a disturbing and profound puzzle, one that hints at a lost technology and a forgotten history of immense and terrible power. To find answers, we might look not only at the ground beneath our feet, but also at the ancient stories passed down through generations. The Hindu epic, the Mahabharata, is one of the oldest and longest poems in the world. It is a tale of gods, heroes, and a great war. But within its verses we find descriptions of weapons that are chillingly familiar to a modern audience. These are not simple swords or spears. They are weapons of cosmic power, capable of destroying entire armies and laying waste to the land for generations. The text describes them with a vividness that transcends myth. One of the most fearsome weapons described is the Brahmastra. It was said to be a single projectile, charged with all the power of the universe. The epic states, an incandescent column of smoke and flame as bright as 1,000 suns rose in all its splendor. This description is hauntingly similar to the mushroom cloud of a nuclear explosion. The text goes on to describe the aftermath. The winds began to blow, clouds roared, and the very elements seemed disturbed. The earth shook and animals dropped dead, scorched by the terrible heat. It paints a picture of apocalyptic destruction. The Mahabharata continues with even more specific details. It describes the effects of this weapon on the soldiers who witnessed it. The corpses of the slain were so burned as to be unrecognizable, one passage reads. Their hair and nails fell out, pottery broke without apparent cause, and the birds turned white. After the blast, the food supplies became poisoned. For those who survived the initial explosion, a slow and agonizing death followed. These are precise descriptions of the effects of intense heat and radiation poisoning, concepts that should have been completely unknown to the ancient writers who composed this epic. How could they have described such things? Are these merely the products of a fertile imagination, or are they the distorted memories of a real historical event? The writers of the Mahabharata seem to be grappling with something they couldn't fully comprehend, using the language of gods and magic to describe a technological horror. They speak of a weapon that made the sun waver in the heavens and boiled the waters of the rivers. When we read these ancient words today, in an age that understands the atom, we cannot help but feel a shiver of recognition. It feels less like a myth and more like a history we have forgotten. Let us try to imagine that day. Picture a thriving city in the Indus Valley, its streets filled with merchants, children playing, and priests chanting in their temples. The sun shines brightly in a clear blue sky. Suddenly a new sun appears. It is a blinding light, brighter than anything ever seen before, a light that sears the eyes of all who look upon it. It is not a gentle dawn, but a violent, silent explosion of brilliance. For a moment, time itself seems to stop, held captive by this terrible, beautiful star that has been born on Earth. Then comes the sound. A deafening roar that is not heard but felt. A concussion that shakes the very foundations of the world. It is followed by a column of smoke and fire climbing higher and higher into the sky, twisting and churning as it grows. It spreads out at the top, forming the shape of a monstrous celestial tree or a great mushroom. The people in the streets below are vaporized. In an instant, their bodies turn to shadow and ash. Those further away are thrown to the ground by a colossal wind, a superheated gale that tears buildings apart and melts stone into liquid glass. In the aftermath, a grim silence falls. The sky grows dark, choked with dust and debris. A strange black rain begins to fall, carrying with it an invisible poison that seeps into the earth, the water, and every living thing. The survivors, those who were shielded from the initial blast, emerge into a nightmare landscape. The world they knew is gone, replaced by a smoldering, radioactive wasteland. Their skin begins to burn, their hair falls out, and a sickness they cannot understand begins to consume them from within. They are the living dead, cursed to wander a poisoned world. This vision, pieced together from the shattered ruins and the haunting verses of ancient texts, is a terrifying one. It speaks of a power that should not exist in the ancient world. It is the power of the atom unleashed. Whether this is a true account of a forgotten war or simply a cautionary tale, its message is clear. It describes a level of destruction that humanity would not witness again until the 20th century. It suggests that perhaps our own atomic age is not the first, but a tragic echo of a cycle of creation and self-destruction that has happened before. The theory of an ancient nuclear war, however compelling, requires more than just ancient texts and vitrified rock. It requires concrete, scientific evidence. In recent years, some investigators have brought modern technology to these ancient sites, searching for clues that might have been missed by earlier generations of archaeologists. Armed with Geiger counters and other sensitive equipment, they have scanned the ruins of cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, looking for the invisible signature of a nuclear event residual radiation, and some claim to have found it. Reports from independent researchers suggest that certain areas within Mohenjo-Daro exhibit surprisingly high levels of background radiation. One skeleton discovered in the street was said to be so radioactive that it was deemed a hazard. These hotspots are allegedly concentrated around the epicenter of the city's destruction, where the vitrified black stones are also found. If these readings are accurate, they provide a powerful piece of physical evidence. Radiation is the calling card of a nuclear explosion, a lingering ghost that remains for thousands of years after the flash and the fire have faded. Imagine the scene, a modern scientist walking through a city that is 4,000 years old. The sun is setting, casting long shadows. The scientist holds a device that clicks and buzzes, a sound that is alien to this ancient place. The clicking grows faster and more frantic over a particular spot on the ground where nothing looks out of the ordinary. It is an invisible energy, a remnant of a cataclysm that occurred millennia ago. This is the intersection of ancient mystery and modern science, where technology allows us to perceive something that was previously hidden, a phantom from a forgotten age. However, it is crucial to note that these claims are highly controversial. Mainstream archaeological and scientific bodies have not confirmed these high radiation readings. They argue that naturally occurring radioactive minerals in the soil and building materials could account for any elevated levels. The debate is fierce. On one side are the independent researchers who believe they have found the smoking gun. On the other is the established scientific community, which demands more rigorous, peer-reviewed data. Until such studies are conducted and published, the radiation of Mohenjo-Daro remains a tantalizing but unproven piece of the puzzle. Beyond the epic of the Mahabharata, other ancient texts from around the world contain passages that seem to describe advanced technology and devastating warfare. These accounts are often dismissed as mythology, the fanciful creations of pre-scientific minds. But what if they are something more? What if they are eyewitness accounts, filtered through the lens of a culture that lacked the vocabulary to describe what it was seeing? We can overlay these textual fragments with our modern understanding, and a new, startling picture begins to emerge. Consider the Drona Parva, another book within the Mahabharata, which describes the effects of a weapon called the Agneya. A blazing missile possessed of the radiance of smokeless fire was let off, the text says. This sounds, honestly, remarkably like a modern incendiary or plasma-based weapon. The description continues, detailing how it caused a dense shower of arrows to cover the enemy. This could be interpreted as a description of a cluster bomb or a multiple warhead missile system. The ancient scribes did their best to describe the indescribable, using the imagery of their time, arrows of fire, to capture the essence of a technological weapon. Another compelling example comes from the Ramayana, another great Hindu epic. It speaks of a time when Rama, a divine hero, fought the demon king Ravana. Ravana's flying machine, the Vimana, is described in great detail as a craft that could travel vast distances through the sky. The texts also mention powerful weapons used in their aerial battles. Are these simply mythological flying chariots, or could they be distorted memories of advanced aircraft? The level of detail in some descriptions, including their propulsion and maneuverability, has led some to believe they are more than just fantasy. When we place these accounts alongside the physical evidence, the vitrified forts, the fused desert glass, the skeletons of Mohenjo-Daro, a pattern begins to take shape. The stories and the stones seem to tell the same tale. It is a story of a lost civilization that reached incredible technological heights, mastering flight and wielding weapons of mass destruction. It is a narrative that has been preserved in fragments, in the epic poems of India, in the melted stones of Scotland, and in the radioactive dust of Pakistan. It is a story that challenges our entire understanding of the ancient world. If such a devastating war did occur, its effects would not have been confined to a single valley in Pakistan. A conflict involving weapons capable of melting stone and poisoning the earth would have been a global event. Its scars would be found all over the world, hidden beneath the soil, buried under the sea, or encoded in the geological record. And indeed, as we zoom out from the Indus Valley, we find tantalizing hints of a worldwide catastrophe that may have reset human civilization thousands of years ago. Geologists speak of the Younger Dryas boundary, an event around 12,800 years ago that marked a sudden and dramatic return to Ice Age conditions. The cause is fiercely debated, but one compelling theory suggests a fragmented comet struck the Earth. This impact hypothesis is supported by a thin layer of sediment found at sites across 4 continents. This layer contains nanodiamonds, melted glass spherules, and other materials that are only formed in conditions of extreme temperature and pressure, conditions consistent with a cosmic impact or a large-scale nuclear exchange. Could this event be linked to the legends of a great flood which are found in almost every ancient culture on Earth? From the story of Noah in the Bible to the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia, humanity seems to share a collective memory of a world-drowning deluge. Such a flood could have been triggered by the rapid melting of ice sheets following a cataclysmic event, wiping out coastal civilizations and leaving only scattered survivors to begin again. The fabled city of Atlantis, which Plato described as sinking into the sea in a single day and night of misfortune, might be a memory of one such lost metropolis. These lost cities may not all be myths. Underwater explorations have revealed mysterious structures off the coasts of Japan, India, and Cuba. The submerged city near Yonaguni, Japan, features massive terraced stone structures that some geologists claim are man-made. In the Gulf of Kambat, off the coast of India, sonar scans have mapped the layout of a vast city now 9 miles from shore and 120 feet beneath the waves. Carbon dating of artifacts recovered from the site suggests it is over 9,000 years old, rewriting the timeline of urban civilization. These discoveries hint at a lost maritime world, a global network of cities swallowed by the sea after a great cataclysm. It is a captivating and terrifying story, a story of a lost golden age, of advanced technology, and of a war that plunged the world back into darkness. But we must, like good scientists, approach these claims with a healthy dose of skepticism. For every piece of tantalizing evidence, there is often a more mundane and perhaps more plausible explanation. The narrative of an ancient nuclear war is built upon interpretations, and these interpretations can be challenged. The duty of inquiry is not just to build theories, but to test them rigorously against all available facts. Mainstream archaeology provides alternative explanations for much of the evidence. The vitrified forts of Scotland, for instance, are now widely believed to have been created intentionally. The theory is that ancient builders lit massive, timber-laced fires against their stone walls to strengthen and fuse them together, creating a more formidable defensive structure. The intense, prolonged heat from these fires could arguably reach the temperatures required for vitrification. While this doesn't explain the fused pottery at Mohenjo-Daro, it offers a non-catastrophic solution for the European sites. Similarly, the high radiation levels reported at some sites are questioned. Geologists point out that certain types of granite and other natural stones contain radioactive elements like uranium and thorium. If a city was built with these materials, or on ground that is naturally rich in these elements, it would exhibit higher than average background radiation without any need for a nuclear event. Without controlled, peer-reviewed studies that rule out these natural sources, the claims of radiation from an ancient bomb remain speculative. The scattered skeletons of Mohenjo-Daro could also be the result of a sudden, virulent plague or a final brutal massacre in the city's last days. The ancient texts, too, can be read in different ways. To a literary scholar, the descriptions in the Mahabharata are powerful poetic metaphors, not technical manuals. The weapon as bright as 1,000 suns could be a stunning piece of imagery designed to convey the divine power of the gods and the terrible glory of war. It might not be a literal description of a fission reaction. To assume that ancient people were describing nuclear physics is to project our own modern anxieties and understanding onto their culture. The most straightforward explanation is often that myth is simply myth, a product of human imagination, spirituality, and storytelling. And so we are left standing at a crossroads between myth and science, between spectacular theory and cautious skepticism. On one hand, we have a collection of strange and compelling clues. Cities that died in an instant, stones melted into glass, skeletons with unexplained radioactivity, and ancient texts that describe weapons with eerie precision. These fragments, when woven together, create a powerful and coherent narrative. A narrative that suggests our modern age of technological peril is not unique, but merely the latest chapter in a long cyclical story of human brilliance and self-destruction. On the other hand, for each of these clues there exists a counter-argument, a more conventional explanation rooted in known geology, archaeology, and literary analysis. Perhaps there was no nuclear war. Perhaps there was only a series of unrelated phenomena, a unique building technique in Scotland, a natural concentration of radioactive minerals in Pakistan, a deadly epidemic, and a rich poetic tradition in India. In this view, the ancient atomic war theory is a modern myth, a conspiracy theory born from our own nuclear age fears, connecting dots that should not be connected. The debate continues, and the truth remains buried, perhaps forever, under the dust of millennia. But the exploration of this mystery is valuable in itself. It forces us to question our assumptions about the past. It reminds us that history is not a settled and complete story, but an ongoing investigation full of puzzles and uncertainties. It pushes the boundaries of our imagination and encourages us to look at the world with a sense of wonder, to see the potential for profound and lost stories in the ruins around us. The evidence may be inconclusive, but the questions it raises are essential. Ultimately, as we stand before the silent ruins of Mohenjo-Daro or read the ancient verses of the Mahabharata, we are confronted with a haunting possibility. The greatest danger may not be that the theory of an ancient nuclear war is true. The greatest danger is that it might be true and that we have learned nothing from it. Have we as a species climbed this same mountain of technological achievement before, only to fall from its peak into a self-inflicted dark age? Have we lost a critical chapter of our own story, a chapter that contains a vital warning for our future?